Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the online sessions on MWT. In today's session, we discuss about the magnetron. In the previous sessions, we have completed about the reflex klystron oscillator and a klystron amplifier. In today's session, we try to go with the magnetron. So basically, magnetron is used as an oscillator to generate microwave signals at very high frequencies. Now we already know the basic definition of a microwave. So microwaves are nothing but what? They are known as electromagnetic waves, whose frequencies ranges from 300 megahertz to say around 300 gigahertz. Or it can be defined as microwaves or EM waves whose wavelengths in the air ranging from 100 centimeters to 1 mm. So these two are the basic definitions of a microwave. So magnetrons are normally used to generate signals under such frequency ranges. The word microwave means what? Very short wave. It is nothing but a short wave. That means whose wavelength is going to be small. Is known as a microwave, which is the shortest wavelength region of the radio spectrum and a part of the electromagnetic spectrum. So it is known as a part of the electromagnetic spectrum. So, well, the magnetron is going to have various properties of microwaves. What are the various properties of microwaves we have seen in the previous sessions? All these properties, this magnetron also should satisfy. So, therefore, we just have a recap of the basics of the microwaves before we normally deal with the magnetron, which is normally going to generate the microwave signals. So, microwaves is an electromagnetic radiations of short wavelength. They can reflect by conducting surfaces just like optical waves since they travel in the straight line. Now usually the microwaves are normally going to travel in the straight line, that is a line of sight propagation. So microwave currents flow through a thin outer layer of the ordinary cable. The microwave currents flow through a thin outer layer of a ordinary cable. So they can really, if you take an ordinary cable, the microwave signals are normally going to travel through a thin outer layer of a ordinary cable. Microwaves are easily attenuated within a short distances. They are not reflected by the ionosphere layer. Okay, so this particular concept we discuss when we go into the last topic, that is the wave propagations and the various advantages of microwaves. What are the various advantages? Obviously, the microwave signals are normally going to get operated at larger frequency ranges. Therefore, the bandwidth availability is going to be really very good. That means it is going to provide an advantages, that is increased bandwidth availability, improved directive properties because of line of sight propagation. And next one is going to be like fading effect and reliability, power requirements. Okay, transparency property of the microwave. So these are the basic advantages of the microwaves. So first advantage is what? The increased bandwidth availability. The bandwidth which we can use in microwaves is going to be really very high. Therefore, we can transmit more number of signals or more number of, we can use more number of channels. Thereby we can transmit more number of signals if you use a microwave signal transmissions and receptions. So microwaves have a large bandwidth compared to the common bands like short waves, ultra high frequency waves, that is UHF range frequencies. So that means the microwaves extending from lambda is equal to 1 centimeter to 10 centimeters from 30,000 megahertz to around 3,000 megahertz. So this region has a bandwidth of around 27,000 megahertz bandwidth. That means more number of low frequency signals can be easily transmitted through this particular microwave range. Improved directivity, the second and important advantage is going to be the directive properties. The microwaves has the ability to use at high gain directive antennas. Any EM wave can be focused in a specified direction. So with high directivity, that is another advantage of this directive properties. So the microwaves are normally going to support high directive antennas to radiate signal by using a line of sight propagation. Now, because of this line of sight propagation, once again, it leads to another advantage that is called fading effect. It is going to have less fading effect, and therefore it is going to be more reliable type of the transmission for us. So therefore, the fading effect due to variation in the transmission medium is more effective at low frequencies. Now, as the frequency is going to be low, then definitely the fading effect is going to be more in the electromagnetic radiations. And next is the one which we are talking now is the line of sight propagation. Due to this line of sight propagation and high frequencies, there is a less fading effect, and hence microwave communication is going to be more reliable communication, because it normally involves with the light of line of sight propagation with high directivity. Therefore, the signals which we normally going to transmit will definitely reach to the receiver with less losses. Therefore, this type of communication is going to be more reliable type of the communication. The next one is going to be the power requirements. The transmitter and receiver power requirements are pretty low at microwave frequencies compared to that at shortwave band frequencies. See here, it is this particular requirement, that is the power requirement, is an advantage in terms of distance coverage. The distance covered by the microwave is going to be very large in comparison with the distance covered by the low frequency transmission, obviously. Therefore, in that perspective, the power which we normally use to transmit low frequencies is really going to get comparable with respect to the distance of signal transmission. So in that perspective, we can say that obviously the transmitter and receiver power requirements are going to be pretty low at microwave frequencies compared to the shortwave band in terms of the long distance communications. So this is what another power requirement advantage. And next one is going to be the transparency property of microwaves. Microwaves frequency band ranging from 300 megahertz to around 300 gigahertz are capable of freely propagating through atmosphere. So this is 10 gigahertz to up to, it will go maximum up to 300 gigahertz usually. So the ranges are normally going to vary based on the basic application which we normally deal with. So don't get confused with this range. So for examination purpose, we can write as 300 megahertz to 300 gigahertz as the microwave frequency range. Little bit we normally went into infrared region also. At the beginning of infrared region also we go. So therefore we can take up to 300 gigahertz as a microwave frequency range. So the presence of such a transparent window in a microwave band facilitates the study of microwave radiation from the sun and stars in a radio astronomical research of space. So whenever we deal with the space communications, then we can always use the microwave signal transmission techniques to deal with the space communications as well. So therefore, that means we want to know, get some signals from the stars, get some signals from the moon. So in that particular situations also, we can use the microwave signal frequencies. The next one is applications. As we spoke about already, applications, many applications, the microwaves are normally going to support in modern technology, which is going to be basically telecommunications, radars. Okay, so and microwave ovens, drying machines in the industry, like textile, food, paper industry, drying clothes, okay, and food industries like making of potato chips, printed matters, etc. So food process industry also we use, rubber industry we use, mining we use, mining applications we use, uh, drying, sterilizing, okay, drying pharmaceuticals. All these things we can normally use these microwave signals. And biomedical applications such as diagnostic and therapeutic treatment in the medicine, we normally use this microwave signals. So these are all the various applications which we already taught. Next, magnetrons. Let us look into the magnetron now. Magnetron as an oscillator. We are here discussing about magnetron as an oscillator. So therefore here magnetrons provide microwave oscillations of very high frequencies. Now we already know what is an oscillator. Oscillator is an electronic circuit used to generate AC signals without any external applied AC input signal. Or in short, we can say oscillators is an electronic device normally used to provide an AC output without any external input signal. Now there are three types of magnetrons, but we have only cavity type of magnetron in the syllabus. So negative resistance type of magnetron, cyclotron frequency type magnetron, and a cavity type magnetron. So in this session, I'll be discussing only with a cavity type magnetron because we have only cavity type of magnetron in the syllabus. Well, so these are all the principle of operations of the various types of the magnetrons. So anyway, first two are not there in the syllabus. We straight away go into the last type, that is called a cavity magnetrons. So what is the basic principle of operation of magnetron? Magnetrons comes under M-type tubes. What are M-type tubes? They comes under the cross field tubes, whereas klystron oscillators comes under the linear beam tubes. So therefore here the principle of operation of cavity magnetrons depends upon the interaction of electrons with a rotating electromagnetic field of constant angular velocity. So here the interaction of electrons, an interaction of the high speed DC electrons with a rotating EM field of a constant angular velocity is the basic principle of operation of this particular magnetron. So that means interaction of electrons with the EM field is the basic principle of operation of generating the high frequencies at microwave range. So these cavity magnetrons provide oscillations of very high peak power and hence are useful in radar applications. So magnetrons are normally going to generate high frequency signals at a high radiating power as well. Therefore, whenever we want to transmit signals to a very long distances, then we normally going to use the magnetrons as an oscillators in such particular applications. Well, next one is magnetron. Let us look into the constructional future of a magnetron basically. So magnetron is going to be like a cylindrical tube. Now from the coordinate system, we already know what is a cylindrical coordinate system, what is a Cartesian coordinate system, what is a spherical coordinate system. So here it is going to be like a cylindrical kind of a coordinate system. We normally going to have it over here in magnetron. So a magnetron is normally going to be cylindrical kind of a setup where the two exterior ends are going to be called as magnet pole pieces, and in between these two magnetic pole pieces we normally going to have an anode assembly with cavities. What is a cavity? Cavity is nothing but a hollow space. Cavity is nothing but a hollow space where the electrons are normally going to form bunches. That is what called a cavity space. And obviously there should be some device, there should be some electron gun inside that. You normally going to have a cathode. This cathode is normally going to emit the high speed DC electrons, and these high speed DC electrons, now this particular anode assembly is normally going to have the cavities. It is simply been under the magnetic field. So when this magnetic field is applied along with the flow of electrons, then there's going to be an interaction between this electrons with the magnetic field. Thereby it is normally going to produce the EM waves. Now for to take the output, we normally connect it through a waveguide, and using a coaxial output system where we normally going to tap the output EM waves. So this is what the basic construction feature of the magnetron. So practically how the magnetron simply looks like, it looks like this, something like this. Then there's going to be a setup here like this. So these two, as we have discussed about here, the top ones are going to be the what is this uh, cooling to the top flange, interfacing the N pole of the magnet, and also connection to the top directly heated cathode rod. So inside this, we normally going to have the magnetic windings, north pole and south pole. So every magnet is going to have a north pole and a south pole. So therefore you normally going to have two magnets over here. Inside these two magnets you normally going to have the cavities. Magnetron cavities are in the region shown in the red. Now here we normally going to have the cavities. And next one is we normally going to pump the electrons into this particular cavity to generate the EM waves. Okay, so next we move on to the next slide now. Now this is going to be the top view of the cross section, top view of the cross section of the magnetron. See this now, all this we have known as cavities. If you observe these cavities, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. So we have 8 cavity magnetron in the syllabus. Therefore I picked up this particular slide which is normally going to be 8 cavity klystron. That means if you simply cut this cavity horizontally, the top view of this we can normally observe it like this. Okay, so inside this we normally going to have the cavities like this. We normally going to have 8 cavities with the gaps over here provided. Okay, so this is what 8 cavity magnetron oscillator circuit. So here in the case of the microwave signal generations, we normally not going to have any wires. So that means here these waveguides or these components are normally going to generate EM waves without any wires. That means the electromagnetic electromagnetic field interactions with electrons are going to take place inside this to generate the EM waves. So everything is simply going to be untouchable things. We are not we are not going to touch anything over here. So we are not going to have any wires, physical wires inside this particular thing. But still, we normally going to get the microwave signals, which are known as the EM waves at microwave range. Well, so this is what the magnetron cross-sectional view, top view of the magnetron cross-sectional view we have. Then next, let us look into the construction. That means whatever construction we have it here, we'll just going to write this in the words about the constructional features of the magnetron. Now, how the biasing is been applied, that is what we normally going to discuss here. Just like biasing we applied in the klystron oscillator. So each cavity in the anode acts as an inductor. So here we should have a inductor effect of inductance and effect of a capacitance. So compulsorily that has to be there in order to have an effect of tuning, right? So the basic principle is what going to be like for frequency of oscillations. We know at resonance, the frequency signals are going to get generated. Right. So that resonant frequency for LC oscillator is going to be what? FR is equal to 1 by 2 pi under root of LC. That is the basic formula for the LC oscillator at a resonance. So that means here similar kind of a setup we normally going to form it here, where the effects of inductor and capacitor is normally going to come into effect without we explicitly going to connect the inductor and a capacitor. So due to the virtual effects of inductance and capacitance, we normally going to have a frequency of oscillation generated at resonance. So each cavity in the anode acts as an inductor having only one turn. Each cavity in the anode. Now there are cavities. Already we spoke that these hollow spaces are known as the cavities. There are cavities now. So each cavity in the anode acts as an inductor having only one turn. Having only one turn. What is the meaning of one turn? This is a one turn cavity now. So having only one turn, and the slot connecting cavity in the interaction space acts as a capacitor. Interaction space. What is the interaction space now? This is the interaction space. These parallel lines are going to act like a capacitor, and this entire cavity is going to act like a inductor. So this is what we normally going to have, and the interaction space acts as a capacitor. Now here, these two are going to form like a parallel resonant circuit, parallel resonant LC circuit. And its resonant frequency depends on the value of L of the cavity and the capacitor C of the slot. So this slot is going to have the capacitor C, and this is going to have inductor L. So the frequency of oscillations depends on the value of this L and C. So the frequency of microwaves generated by the magnetron oscillator depends on the frequency of the RF oscillations existing in the resonant cavities. Now, as we discussed continuously, that magnetron is basically a cross-field device. Why it is called as a cross-field device? Because the electric field between the anode and cathode is radial, whereas the magnetic field produced by permanent magnet is axial. That means the electric field and magnetic field are perpendicular to each other in the case of the magnetron, whereas in the case of klystron, the electric and magnetic fields are linear. They are not perpendicular to each other. Since the electric and magnetic fields in magnetron are perpendicular to each other, it comes under the cross field tube. Cross field means what? Plus symbol. What is plus symbol? That is what cross field representation. There is a vertical line there is a vertical line and a horizontal line to form a plus symbol, right? So that is called, these two lines are connected like a cross. So similar kind of a concept is used here. The magnetron is a cross field device, as we already know, as the electric field between anode and the cathode is radial. The electric field between anode and cathode is radial, What is radial? Straight line path is a radial kind of a distance. We'll just discuss about what is radial behavior. Whereas the magnetic field produced by the permanent magnet is axial to that. Is axial to that, means perpendicular to the electric field is what the magnetic field. Because of this property, we call it as a cross field tube. Now, a high DC potential can be applied between the cathode and the anode, which produces radial electric field. Now, the electric field which is produced radially is going to be a DC electric field. It is high speed electrons because of the DC voltage. Because of the DC voltage. Now, depending on the relative strengths of the electric and magnetic fields, the electrons emitted from the cathode and moving towards anode will increase or will traverse to the interaction space as shown in the following figure 2. Now, there is a figure 2. Now, this figure 2 is going to explain how the magnetic and electric fields are going to get interacted with each other. We'll discuss this in a while now. So, this particular explanation is given for that particular EM wave generation figure. So that means depending on the relative strengths of the electric and magnetic fields, the electrons emitted from the cathode and moving towards anode will traverse through the interaction space. Now, what do you mean by the interaction space? So this is the interaction space. This is the interaction space between the electric field and the magnetic field. Okay. So this is the interaction space. In this interaction space, the electrons, the high speed electrons, electric field is going to be interacted with the magnetic field. Now, which has been shown in this particular figure 2. Okay. So let us look into this now. So that means here, that is what the reason for generating the EM waves, because due to the interaction of the electric and magnetic fields, the EM wave is normally going to get generated. That is what our theory. What is EM wave? EM wave is a child of the electric and the magnetic fields, where electric and magnetic fields are normally perpendicular to each other. So in the absence of magnetic field, the electrons travel straight from cathode to the anode due to the radial electric field force acting on it. So let us discuss about this now. The basic thing over here, what we have. See, this is what. Now this is the figure which is showing inside the magnetron. So please draw a circle. Now, how do you draw this particular magnetron? So we have to explain the operation. How do we explain the operation of the magnetron? The magnetron operation is basically explained using 3 modes of operation. What is the first mode? When the magnetic field is equal to 0 is the first mode. Next one is when the magnetic field is going to be to a level where it simply touches this particular thing. Then the magnetic field is going to be, when the magnetic field is going to be to a level only until it simply graces this particular cavity and comes back to the cathode. So that is what called a critical magnetic field, which we can simply speak about. And next magnetic field is going to be magnetic field which is more than the critical magnetic field. So the first mode is going to be magnetic field B is equal to 0. Now inside this, we normally now this is going to be, imagine it is a cylindrical structure now. Now I have just given you a top view of this. Okay, this is not a side view. It is going to be a top view. This figure, what you're seeing here is a top view figure, a cross-sectional top view. We are just simply shown it here. So in the exam also, you have to draw this cross-sectional top view and explain the operation of the magnetron. So now just simply draw a circle here, and inside this circle simply draw these cavities like this. Draw these cavities like this, and inside this draw a circle once again. This circle rod, this particular rod is normally going to supply the electrons because it is known as a cathode. Now, under the absence of the magnetic field, how is the magnetic field now? Magnetic field is coming perpendicular to this particular surface. Now, this is the entire surface. This is the cavity gap we have. This is the, what is this, something like, you know, a repeller space which we spoke in the case of the Klystron oscillator. Similarly, here also it's going to be the interaction space. So here the electric and magnetic fields are going to get interacted with each other. So that is called known as the interaction space. Now, the magnetic field is always going to be applied perpendicular to this particular plane, to this particular circular plane. Now, along the circular plane, what is the fields we have? The electric field lines. Under the absence of the magnetic field, when the magnetic field is zero, the electric field lines are radial. That means they are simply moving in a radial fashion towards the cathodes, because the cathodes are all going to be positively charged, whereas electron is going to be negatively charged. So therefore this cathode is going to emit the electrons radially outward towards the cavities. Now when the magnetic field is zero, they are simply radial, they are simply going in a radial fashion towards the direction of the cavities. So here the resonant cavities in the anode block are biased at DC0. The cathode is biased to a high negative potential of 10 kilovolts. See the speed of the electrons. The electrons are getting ready. The electrons are getting radiated from the cathode for a voltage of 10 kilovolts. It's a very huge voltage we normally going to apply. So the electrons are going to travel at a very high speed. Since the electrons are traveling at a very such a high speed, it is going to generate a high speed signals, high speed AC signals at microwave range. So if there is no magnetic field, only the cathode is going to emit the electrons, then the electrons travel directly to the anode in the radial path itself. So this is what the basic thing which we have over here. So this is what this point, in the absence of the magnetic field, that is B is equal to 0, the electrons travel straight from cathode to the anode due to the radial electric force acting on it. So that has been explained in the figure 2a. So that is explained in the figure 2a. So here figure 2 is normally explaining about the basic concept of the magnetron. This figure is showing the basic concept of the magnetron, where cross-sectional view of the anode assembly. Now here in this figure, the electric and magnetic fields both have been applied. So because this particular inner conductor is a cathode, it is represented with a negative sign because it is emitting the electrons. If there is no magnetic lines of force, now these blue lines, if you see these blue lines, blue arrows, these blue arrows are nothing but the magnetic field lines, which is perpendicular to the electric field lines. In the absence of these blue lines, magnetic field, the electrons will be simply traveling in the radial direction. That means straight line path is going to get established, okay, uh, towards the path of the electrons. Now the path of the electron is going to be straight line if the magnetic field is 0. Now if the magnetic field is applied, then what will happen? Yes, now these electrons, due to the influence of the magnetic field, now they simply going to get rotated. So this rotated field is normally going to be the effect due to the interaction of the magnetic and electric fields. This rotating field which is generated is nothing but the EM waves. So the electrons from the hot filament, that is called cathode, would travel radially to the outer side ring if it were not for the magnetic field. The magnetic force deflects them in the sense shown in the figure. So that because of the magnetic field, it is going to reflect, or it is going to deflect the electron beams. So if so doing, they pump the natural resonant frequency of the cavities. The currents around the resonant cavities causes them to radiate EM energy at the resonant frequencies. So this rotative nature of nature of the field is nothing but the EM field which is generated because of the electric and the magnetic fields both applied simultaneously. Now this is once again the cross-sectional view of the magnetron once again. Okay, once again this is going to be the cross-sectional view of the magnetron. Now in this constructional diagram, what we can see is, we can just see some more details in the magnetron. So every magnetron is going to have a cathode. See, this yellow yellow rod is nothing but a cathode, and this is going to be an electron gun which is going to radiate which is going to uh, supply the electrons at very high speed. And these are nothing but the cavities. See this particular brown kind of a thing here. These are known as the cavities. Now you can collect the output from any one of the cavities. See, it's at one of the cavity we normally going to collect the output. So which is nothing but the microwave radiation here. If you see this particular rod, this is what the output antenna. So it can be treated as an output antenna, and using this antenna, we normally going to take the output from this particular antenna. And we normally going to have two magnets here placed, north pole and south pole. Due to this north and south poles, the magnetic field is normally going to get supplied perpendicular to this particular electric field. So in the absence of the magnetic field, electric lines are traveling simply in a straight line path. So simply in a straight line path, as we have seen in the previous slide. Now this anode structure has been shown here. Only this anode structure has been shown it here. Now the space between the cathode and the cavities is nothing but the interaction space. Now in this interaction space, the RF field or the microwave fields which are generated are getting traveled by touching these particular anodes continuously. Now whenever we want to pick the signal, we will be picking the signal from this particular cathode. That means what is that we have understood here now? The electrons which are emitted from this particular cathode should experience some force, because of the magnetic field lines, and due to that the electron beam is normally going to have some rotational field. Now this rotational field is generated such that it will be simply grazing these particular cathodes continuously. So as it is simply traveling, grazing these cathodes continuously, the EM wave is simply going to get rotating here like this. Now, while it is being rotating by touching with the cavities, we normally going to pick up that particular RF field. We are normally going to pick up that RF field. So while rotating, at some point it will be once again coming into the cathode. Okay, so like this, many bunches of electrons are simply going to get generated inside this particular cavity, and all these bunches are simply going to come up like a RF field. That is the radio frequency fields are known as EM waves. So this is what the basically the construction diagram of the cavities. Well, so this is what the situation of the electric beam when the magnetic and electric fields both are applied. So this is the diagram which we have shown, we have explained previously. When there is no magnetic field, how the electrons are moving? Electrons are simply moving radially towards, radially in a straight line path. Then here, cross-sectional view of the anode assembly is shown over here. Now here, both electric and magnetic fields are applied. Now when both are applied, the electrons now travel in a strongly curved path. See the electron, how it is traveling now? The electron direction is simply going to convert it from straight line path to the strongly curved path and induce an EM field in the anode block. So we're going to pick from any one of the anode the EM field. So here the magnetic field is applied perpendicular to the plane of the anode, plane of the drawing or plane of the anode. So thereby we normally going to generate the EM fields. Now here in the examination, you have to explain all these constructions, draw the construction and explain. And basically we normally go with these modes of operation or conditions of the oscillations. The conditions of the oscillations depends on the modes of the operations. So we normally operate this in three modes, especially in three modes. We can have one more mode which is of no use, not much use, that is excessive magnetic field mode. So this figure 3 is normally going to show the electron trajectories in the presence of the crossed electric and magnetic fields. Now first of all, this green line, first one is A, no magnetic field. When there is no magnetic field, the electric lines are normally flow in a axial direction. Radially they will be going in a straight line path like this, touching the anode radially. Now when they are going in a straight line path, we will be saying that there is no change in the direction of the electric field. Since there is no change in the direction of the electric field, we say that there is no EM field. So there is no EM field to generate. DC has been supplied, DC has been acquired from the anode. So we want AC at the output. So there is no question of any AC. There is no rotating field. There is no varying field. Since there is no varying field, this A field lines are going to get generated when there is no magnetic field. The next case is going to be B, where we normally apply, we increase the magnetic field little bit from 0, which is known as a small magnetic field. So when you apply this small magnetic field, what will happen? The electrons which were flowing before, when there is no magnetic field in A path, are now going to take a little curve. But unfortunately, this little curve, these electrons should touch and come back once again, but they are not coming back. After one cycle, two cycles, three cycles, four cycles, or n cycles, somehow the electron should come back to the cathode. This electron direction, rotation should come back to the cathode in order to complete a cycle. So here what is happening is these electrons at B curved paths are simply not coming back. They are simply going and disappearing at the anode terminal itself. They are not coming back. They are not reflecting back because the magnetic field is not sufficient enough. Therefore, we normally going to have this kind of a problem here. In this mode also, there is no EM wave generated. That means in A mode, B mode, there is no EM wave generated. The next one is going to be what now? Magnetic field is equal to BC. When magnetic field is equal to BC, which is known as a critical magnetic field. What is a critical magnetic field? It is a magnetic field where the electron beam is simply going to graze this particular cavity location. Grazing means what? Just going there, attending it, and once again coming back. Okay, something like whenever some chief guest comes into our college, we say that he is going to have so many appointments. Say a prime minister. A prime minister has come to our college. Then what we can say? We will simply say that we thank our prime minister so and so for gracing the occasion. What is the meaning of it? He just going to come to the college to stay in a limited amount of time period. Then immediately he'll be once again going back for his busy schedule. He is not going to stay with us continuously. That is what grazing. So here also it is simply going to graze the cavity and come back. So that is what called the critical magnetic field. So this is here now, as the electron beam is touching the anode and coming back, we are normally going to get the EM wave. But here the EM wave the EM wave which is generated is going to get collected only from this cavity, nearby cavity only. Other cavities, say this cavity, this cavity, this cavity, there is no electron path at all. So therefore, from these cavities, the electron is normally not going to get acquired. So therefore, the magnetic field we apply should be little bit more than the critical magnetic field. Okay, and one more magnetic field is going to be called excessive magnetic field. This is also dangerous. When the magnetic field is so excessive, then what happens? Without touching these cavities, the curvilinear path of the electrons will simply going to merge with the cathode. So this is also not going to produce any EM waves for us. This is also not going to produce any EM waves for us. So this operation we are normally going to explain in this particular slide. So description or an operation of the magnetron. So the magnetic field strength is increases slightly. The lateral force, that is the lateral magnetic force, bending the path of the electron as given by the path B in the figure 3. So the following through this we are going to have figure B. So it's going to bend the electrons. Now here also there is no EM field generated. The radius of the path is given by if the strength of the magnetic field is made sufficiently. Now I increase magnetic field a little bit more than the path B. Then the electrons can be prevented from reaching the anode as indicated in figure. Now I just give an excessive magnetic field here, that is called D. Now when I give more magnetic field, what happens? Then they never really touch the anode. They're simply going to sufficient height, then the electrons can be prevented from reaching the anode as indicated in path D. Here also it is going to be a vein, it's going to be a waste for us. So the electron should touch the anode to normally tap the EM field. The electrons generated from cathode should touch the anode, and finally after some cycles, one or more cycles, it should reach to the cathode to say that a cycle has been completed. So therefore this is what the basic uh, principle of generating the EM waves. Next one is going to be critical magnetic field. The magnetic field required to return the electrons back to the cathode just grazing the surface of the anode is called as the critical magnetic field. So what is critical magnetic field? Critical magnetic field is a magnetic field which is supplied enough so that the electrons are going to graze the anode before it comes to the collector, before it comes to the cathode. Or the cutoff magnetic field is indicated by the path C. So this path C is been indicated here. This is path C. Path C this is. So here it is simply grazing. The electrons are simply grazing the anode. These cavities are all known as the anodes. The next one is going to be the magnetic field is larger than the critical field, not excessive, larger than critical field. Then the electron experiences a greater rotational force and may return back to the cathode quite faster. So after in between, that means the magnetic field we apply positively should be in between this mode C and mode D. In between these two modes, if we apply magnetic field, what will happen now? The electron is normally going to get rotated by grazing all these cavities. Thereby, we can just simply pick up from any one of these cavities the EM field. So this is what the EM wave generation from the magnetron. So therefore it is going, this is the basic operation of the magnetron towards generating the EM waves. Okay. So thank you very much for the today's session.